Well, it's Friday now. The sun rises over Jerusalem, but this is no ordinary day. The streets are buzzing, not with joy, but with, in a way, an electric chaos of injustice. Jesus is being led outside the city gates, dragging a cross on his torn and bloodied back. The cheers of Palm Sunday have faded, the quiet of the upper room has passed. Now comes the silence of the cross. Good Friday is the darkest point of the story. The light of the world is being snuffed out. The crowd mocks the leaders. The leaders sneer. The disciples scatter. The sky will then go dark. But in that silence between the hammer strikes and the cries of pain, God is doing his loudest work. Let's linger at the foot of the cross and listen closely to what silence can teach us today. Luke's account is stunningly brief. There they crucified him. No lingering descriptions, no dramatized gore, just a few words. But those words carry the weight of eternity. And all the while, Jesus says almost nothing other than a handful of statements, each one short, powerful, and full of meaning. He remains mostly silent. The one who spoke creation into being now absorbs the hatred of his creation in silence. Isaiah saw it coming. He said, like a lamb that is led to slaughter and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. That's Isaiah 53, verse 7. I mean, he could have called down angels. He could have spoken judgment from the cross. He could have defended himself. But instead, he simply says, Father, forgive them. He also says, today you will be with me in paradise. And then he also says, into your hands I commit my spirit. There's no retaliation, there's no curses, there's just grace. And that's the paradox of the cross. You see, in the moment of deepest suffering, Jesus speaks mercy. In silence, he accomplishes the loudest declaration of love the world has ever known. Two criminals hang next to Jesus. Both are dying. Both are broken. Both hear the same words and see the same man and feel the same nails that he did, but only one responds in faith. That's the power of the cross. It divides. It reveals what's really in our hearts. It forces us to respond. For one thief, Jesus is just another victim. For the other, Jesus is the only hope left. And isn't that still true today? Today, some mock the cross. If you're the Son of God, save yourself. Today, others meet Jesus there with open hands. Lord, remember me. Jesus promises the second thief that today you will be with me in paradise. And that man had no chance to clean up his life, and he had no time to go to the synagogue and to pray. He had no good works to offer. He only had the one thing, and that was faith. Friends, the silence of the cross is loud enough to save the worst of us because it's not about what we do for Jesus. It's about what he has done for us. From noon to 3 p.m., darkness covers the land. Now, this wasn't a random eclipse. This was a cosmic sign. Nature itself was mourning as the Creator suffered. And the one who is light experienced the full weight of darkness in that moment, not just physically, but also spiritually. In that moment, Jesus bore the wrath of sin, not his sin, ours. Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 5:21, "For our sake he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." It's hard to imagine the agony of that moment when the Father turned his face away from the Son. When Jesus, the beloved Son, felt the crushing silence of separation. But that silence, thankfully, didn't last. This might seem like a side note in the story, but it's a thunderclap in heaven. The curtain in the temple, the one that separated the holy place from the most holy place, the space where God's presence dwelled. Only the high priest could go in, and only once a year. And it was a clear sign, stay out. You're not holy enough. But at the very moment that Jesus died, the curtain was torn. But what was interesting is it was torn from top to bottom. From heaven to earth, God was making a statement. Access is now open. The barrier of sin is broken. Now all are welcome to come in. The silence of the cross gave birth to a new invitation. It was an invitation to draw near, not through religion, not through ritual, but through the blood of Jesus. A Roman soldier, hard trained and likely indifferent to suffering, sees what happens at the cross and is undone. He doesn't just say Jesus is innocent. Other gospels record him saying, truly, this man was the Son of God. Even an outsider, perhaps especially an outsider, can see it clearly. Sometimes it takes a death to wake us up. Sometimes the silence speaks louder than the noise. Good Friday reminds us that the gospel isn't just for the religious insiders, it's for the soldier, the thief, the betrayer, the doubter, but it's also for us because we probably fall under one of those areas today. Maybe you're standing at the foot of your own cross. Maybe you're suffering or grieving or maybe you're just waiting. Maybe God feels silent to you at this moment. And so let me encourage you, if I may. Silence doesn't necessarily mean absence. On Good Friday, heaven was quiet, but salvation was underway. Don't mistake silence for abandonment. Sometimes the greatest work of God happens in the quiet. While Jesus was silent, hell was trembling. While the sky grew dark, the curtain was tearing. While the world jeered, the kingdom was coming. The silence of the cross wasn't the end. It was actually the turning point. As you reflect on the silence of that dark day, let it draw you to wonder. not despair. Jesus didn't come down from the cross. He stayed for you. Friends, he endured injustice and pain and death so that you could be forgiven, so that you could be healed and be made new. That's the sound of Good Friday. Love that holds fast even in silence. And so today, don't rush ahead to Sunday. Sit at the cross. Feel the weight of that moment. Let it break your heart. Let it stir your soul. Let it humble you. And remember, dawn is coming.